In this video, will be presented the sample reception and testing in Quality Control Laboratories. Also, the software works as is. The intention is not to have an exhaustive implementation, but instead to have just a starter framework, minimalistic implementation that will allow an easy personalization on top of this groundwork. Let's see how sample reception and testing works. First, we will log in. Then we will select sample reception from the sidebar menu. In this form, we notice three types of samples: certification samples, verification samples, and category verification samples. First, we have the certification samples. These samples are usually materials produced by the organization or raw materials used by the organization in production. The certification samples are collected according to internal procedure of the organization, and the laboratory must be qualified to perform the testing methods mentioned in the associated specification. The test must be performed according to existing standards, making sure that the results are within the accepted margin of error. This is the list of existing specifications. For exemplification, we will select this specification by clicking the Details button. And here we can see the specification form has three sections: the general information section in the top part of the form, the list of parameters and restrictions, and the last section, the condition validation section. Each specification has a list of parameters and for each parameter we have a list of restrictions, conditions, that have to be met by the testing results. When the specification is created, the conditions are tested against real values to make sure that no mistakes are present. This is the list of real values, and this is the expected results. And this is the result after evaluating the condition against the given values. Let's return to sample reception. As we can see in this dialog, we can select only materials that have a specification And when the new sample is added, there is no need to specify the tests that are going to be performed because they are already mentioned in the specification. Second, we have the verification samples. These are samples that can be any samples of materials used by the organization, and usually these samples are brought by the internal clients of the laboratory. As we can see in this dialog, we can select any material that can be currently tested by the laboratory, and also the internal client must specify what tests need to be performed for the submitted sample. In this moment, the user can save the form and register the sample for testing. In our case, we will just cancel the form. Let's see the list of materials that are routinely tested by the laboratory. So this is the list of possible materials, and let's see the details for one of them. Let's select this one for now. The material form has two sections. The first section is general information about the material, and in the second section we have the list of applicable tests to this material. Here we can select the applicable test for a given material, but we will cancel for now. And let's go back to sample reception. Third, we have the category verification samples. These samples can be any samples of materials from outside the organization, materials that are not routinely tested by the laboratory. Usually, these are samples of competitor products or new raw material samples from the market. As we can see in this dialog, we have to write the name of material, for identification, and the category of material to be tested must be selected. And now, as we know what material is provided for testing, we can select from the applicable tests the ones of interest. Let's see the list of categories that are routinely tested by the laboratory. So this is the list of possible categories, and let's see the details for one of them. The category form has two sections, the general information section on top and the applicable tests on the bottom. Here we can select the applicable tests for a given category from the list of tests performed by the laboratory. Let's go back. Let's go back again to the sample reception. Scroll the list, load more records. And for exemplification, I will choose this verification sample. So this is the form used by the laboratory personnel for recording the testing results. The testing form has 4 sections: general information section, testing results measured directly or calculated manually based on measurements. Testing forms, where the measurements are recorded in a form and the testing results are calculated based on some formula. And the last section for submitted testing reports. Let's have a closer look at the directly measured testing results. First, this form can be edited just by the laboratory personnel, and all of the values recording in this form but not reported are visible only for the laboratory personnel and are not publicly available, like these ones. The only public data is the data from the testing report. As we can see here by viewing the report. This is the only public data. The laboratory personnel will decide what data will be published in the testing report by toggling the button um, reported yes or no. These buttons. Once the data has been made public in the report, that particular data is no longer editable. It can just be viewed for traceability purposes to allow future investigations in case it is necessary. As we can see in this column, the reported test is no longer editable. It can only be viewed because the data has been published. The data that has not been published yet can be still edited. If a mistake is detected in the testing report, another report will be issued with corrected values and the appropriate explanations. And in the same time, the old one will be cancelled but not deleted. The record of this failure, will remain as evidence. Before issuing the testing report, the laboratory personnel can preview the report by using this button to make sure that the data is correct, and if everything looks fine, it can submit the testing report using this button. Now let's have a closer look at the testing forms. The testing forms are very useful and very important for the case when the laboratory personnel performs multiple measurements, and based on these measurements, calculations have to be performed in order to get the testing results. Performing these calculations manually is time-consuming and error-prone. For this reason, this process needs to be automated, and in this can be done by using testing forms. As an example, let's analyze this sample. Here we have the measurements, and here we have the calculated result. Let's click Edit. And let's see in the edit form what are the measurements performed. We notice in this form that we can have multiple types of data. For instance, here, 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 and here we have numeric values. And here and here we have enumeration data type where we can have discrete values like here or here. I would like to analyze together the definition of testing form on a simpler case. We'll select this sample. Let's analyze this simple form. Here we have the measurements, these ones, and here we have the calculated results. And this data belongs to this testing form. Let's see now how this form has been defined. Let's navigate to the forms using the sidebar menu. And here we found the form that we wanted to analyze. We will go to details. As we can see, this form has only one version, but every form can have multiple versions and variants. And once a form is validated and is used for processing data, it cannot be changed anymore. Instead, it can be cancelled and replaced with another version, but the old one remains for traceability purposes. The old records cannot be changed even if later some mistakes are found. We have to know every time what formula has been used for calculating the results. And in this way, there is a chance to contain or limit the eventual damages. However, in this case, we have just one validated version which has already been used for processing data. Let's see the definition of this form. The form definition has three sections: the general information about the form, in the top side the form structure, in the middle in the form validation, where the form is provided with measurements data and the values calculated by the form is compared with the known good value calculated externally or manually. This one, this one, this one, and this one. Multiple data sets can be provided until the form quality is confirmed beyond any doubt. Is this test case, and this is the other test case, but we can have multiple test cases. Let's analyze now the form definition. First, we notice that the form uses only scalar numeric values. This one, this one, this one, and this one. And these two form fields represent direct measurements. They are not calculated, they are direct measurements. and the other two fields represent calculated fields. Let's see what formula has been used for the first calculated field. It is the product between the two measurement fields. This one and this one. And let's see what formula has been used for the second calculated field. Is the sum between the two measurement fields this time. That's it. This was briefly the sample reception and testing for quality control laboratories. My experience is limited to just two quality control laboratories, and mostly I implemented just those features I considered generic and maybe something extra. Because the laboratory workflow used for designing this application may not match other laboratories, please share your experience in the comments below. Thank you. Bye.